Aloha, everyone. It's Wednesday, and that means it's news day. The DAS team has gathered the most important news from around the AI weave to saturate your neural network. Today, we'll talk about Sam Altman explaining what happened with the latest update to ChatGPT. Alibaba keeps the AI race at full speed with the release of Qwen 3, a family of hybrid models, and the rise of ChatHouse, a co-working space for chatbots. It is April 30th, 2025. This is episode 453, and this is the Daily AI Show. Thank you, everyone, for joining the live stream, and to all of you who watch later. Today, I'm joined by Brian and Andy, and I am Junmi. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and join the discussion at thedailyAIshow.com. Okay, let's start off with a quick one. Google's NotebookLM adds over 70 languages. What made this jump out to me is that Brian goes through and makes this conundrum segment each Saturday for us. And so I thought it would be really interesting to start releasing those in alternate languages.
Well,
Hoy vamos a meternos con unos textos que dibujan un futuro. Bueno, un futuro bastante complejo. Imaginemos una superinteligencia artificial, una CIA, que se encarga de gestionar el riesgo climático a nivel global.
Uf, un escenario potente. Los documentos que analizamos lo llaman.
I think we all learned something there.
Oh, yeah.
Neither of us speak French.
Climate change, awesome.
I was ready with that one, Jimmy. I didn't know you were coming out of the gate with that. I was like, I just did this as part of the thing today. So,
All right, that's perfect. Yeah, I figure we start off with something that was definitely relevant and a quick start off to what we do weekly, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome.
I've got a weave on that.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, yeah. So, language is something that's native to large language models. And when they're trained on multiple languages, they have near perfect fluency across multiple languages, including code. So, learning a language is one of the most important things you can do for brain health, right? So, processing the translation and then ultimately generating enough neuronal connections that you can actually think in that language. That's really important. And there's good advice that if you're raising a child, you should expose them to multiple languages early on in the process while the brain has the sort of rapid formation of these capabilities. And a lot of people have turned to learning new languages using a product called Duolingo. Well, I have some news about Duolingo, but first I'm going to talk about Googlelingo. Now, they're not really calling it that, but Google just released three new ways to use Google Translation. And the first one is called Tiny Lesson. In Tiny Lesson, you describe a situation such as finding the lost passport. And what you'll receive is vocabulary and grammar tailored to that particular situation right now. So like if you're abroad, you're in Spain, you lost your passport, you want to talk to somebody in an office there, it doesn't speak English, you can quickly learn the right vocabulary and grammar and get going. The next one is called, and these are, by the way, in labs, right? So these are experiments, but they're all related to learning language rapidly, but in Google's LLMs. So the second experiment is called Slang Hang, which helps people, learn the slang versions of a language. So that if you were going to go out in Paris to the club, well, you might want to know what the slang for that is. So you would do Slang Hang, and you would be presented with basically what you saw with NotebookLM. You'd hear two players going back and forth with the slang that's appropriate to that kind of age group and so on.
So last one, are you saying that I can now understand my anime that I bought? I don't need subtitles anymore?
We can get into, and all parents everywhere who do not understand what their grade school and high school children are saying, they can now get into Slang Hang and try to figure out what's going on there.
Sweet, skibbity.
Third one is called WordCam, And that one lets you snap a photo of your surroundings, and then Gemini will detect objects in them and label them in the language you're learning, which is really, really cool, I think. So, one last little weave, Duolingo, literally alongside Googlelingo coming out, just announced that it's going to be a company which is AI first. And they see the writing on the wall. Large language models really supplant what Duolingo's technology is. And so they've got to rapidly respond to that disruptive, emergent competition with Duolingo. And the way they're starting it out is they're saying, look, to teach language well, we need to create a massive amount of content. And so the first thing we're going to do is move from manual development of the content in the Duolingo platform to AI-driven content generation. And that's an analog for what lots of companies need to do first, which is take advantage of content generation, which is one of the principal methodologies for employing AI. All right.
I have a weave up of that, but I do want to just talk a little bit more on because it happens to do with voice and stuff like that. But a quick weave on Duolingo, or I'm sorry, a quick point on Duolingo. As I was reading some comments from The Verge, which was talking about this, there's a couple things that jumped out to me from I think it was the CEO that was talking that they were getting these quotes from. But one of them was talking about how you just kind of said it, Andy, which was we won't get to where we need to be with AI if we just try to make small tweaks to current human process. And I thought, wow, that's something every business should be hearing, which is have an AI first mentality. That doesn't mean don't implement AI and figure out how it can work alongside and be that coworker to people. Absolutely. Expertise plus AI is great, but you're going to go a lot farther if you think about and you deconstruct and you look at how AI can be most effective and efficient and build processes around that for the long term. And so I did hear a bit of that in there. Now, on the other side of it, there's a little bit of, interesting wording here. He talks about, like you just talked about the productivity boost that they need. Without AI, it would take us decades to scale our content to more learners. We owe it to our learners to get them this content ASAP. Now, may be true for the business, but two, also that's a great way of saying, look, guys, we don't really have a choice, you know? And then the last thing I want to say really quick on them is that they said something very, very similar to who was the last company we just talked about? Guys, that said they weren't the CEO came out just like a week or two ago and said, unless you can prove
Shopify.
Oh, Shopify, yeah.
Shopify. Okay, listen to this. We'll gradually. So this is what it says: we'll be rolling out a few constructive constraints to help guide this shift. We will gradually stop using contractors to do the work AI can handle. AI will be part of what we are looking for in hiring. We've heard that AI will be part of what we evaluate in performance reviews. Headcount will only be given if a team cannot automate more of their work. Isn't that almost, it's not verbatim, but isn't that exactly what we heard from another CEO saying, hey, you have to be able to prove now that you cannot automate more of this, that you cannot get AI into this more before we will even, entertain the idea of headcount. So just wanted to bring up a couple things going on in that story. It's interesting. My wife uses Duolingo all the time. I tried the gamification of it actually for me caused me like more anxiety because I got I got to get this done. I got to get this back, whatever. And I kind of backed away from it. I am not one of those people that does really well with language, but I do think we're close here, whether it's Duolingo or some other one or Google or Lens or whatever. But, being able to put on a set of glasses like you guys have or sunglasses or something and walk around a physical environment, even with enough compute and visual of something saying to me, in English, like it here in the States, like I'm not traveling necessarily, but like let's say I'm walking down through your typical shopping center in the States, and my glasses in my ear, I hear, oh, it looks like we're coming up on, and I'm trying to learn French, let's say, and it says, oh, it looks like we're coming up on a bakery. That might be called a boulangerie. Do you want to practice some French as if we were walking to the bakery? Like that's sort of the immersive that I think needs to happen for me, at least. I won't speak for everybody. I don't think I'm going to learn it on an app. I never was really that great at it in class, the rote repetition. And my daughter's in that Spanish right now. And I mean, she's like, it's fine. Like I don't think she's becoming fluent in Spanish because she's taking Spanish in middle school. So I do get excited because I do want to learn other languages. I also think we're at a convergence of I may not need to know other languages, but my wife and I often talk about maybe, being out, not retiring, but working remotely and being
Mm.
expat and going like to Portugal. And of course, if we ever decided to do that, then I would take it upon myself to be fluent in Portuguese because I think that's the right thing to do. And be fluent
It's a lot of requirements for getting work visas too.
yeah, sure, yeah, but I mean, I just mean in general, it's the right thing to do. I don't wanna I wouldn't wanna move somewhere else and be there for a long term and just assume I could survive on the English of both the native environment, community there, as well as the expat community, because you can go a really long way, insulate yourself, and never really have to learn the native language. So, I mean, I think you would say the same, right, Jimmy? Like, with people who are, like languages and stuff like that. So, anyway, that's
Yeah.
go ahead, and then I'll have my weave after that. Go, go.
But yeah, so what I wanted to point out was you had a great example of the best way to learn languages. Everybody has known for a long time the best way is immersion. Unfortunately, everyone can't go into a community or region that primarily everything that is written and spoken is in that language, right? Like you gave the example for French. Not everybody can go to France to be immersed into French, but I think what it would be an interesting alternative or supplemental process to that would be AR. You talked about having glasses and recognizing where you're going. Now, with AR, what we can see is we can see the overlay. So instead of like you're walking to your neighborhood bakery, instead of saying bakery, it will say boulangerie,
Yeah, right.
and those kinds of things. And that way you can practice. Oh, do you want to practice your French? Okay, boom, French overlay, you know, those kinds of things. And so that might be a great stepping stone before you go on your trip or whatnot. But super interesting. Yeah,
For
definitely.
sure. Okay, so here was my pivot on uh language. I don't know, it's a light pivot, but we're gonna call it a pivot here. So this was in the news as well, and this was from Tavis, who I've never heard of, but that often happens in AI. And they said we just dropped a new SOTA lip sync model, state of the art, I guess that is, model on Fall, which I happen to use all the time. So that's what made it interesting to me. Hummingbird.0, available now as a research preview. It's the most accurate zero-shot lip sync model we've tested, open or closed source. Okay, so first things first, let's look at the sample they did, and then I know you guys are looking for it. I went ahead and did a sample with our very own crew, so I will have that in just a second. But let's look at what they did because they used, I think this is White Lotus. I don't watch this show, but I get the impression that's what we're watching here. So just watch this real quick.
I was fine tuning models every night, GPTs, llamas, open weights, closed weights, sometimes multiple frameworks in one sitting. I was obsessed, man. Optimizing, prompting, jailbreaking, chasing the high of the perfect output. And after 1,000 prompts like that, I started to ask, what am I really chasing? Accuracy, alignment, or just some sense of control? I realized I could prompt a million AIs and I'd still never be satisfied. Maybe I didn't want to use the AI. Maybe I wanted to be the AI.
I love that, by the way. Maybe I wanted to be the AI. Okay, so I don't think it's bad. I think we would all, I don't know, on this group at least collectively agree it is not seamless. There's an uncanny valley there still, but it's getting better and better, and we keep seeing this. So I thought, well, I mean, I want to play, so I did. So here we are in fall, and what I did was use Andy. Sorry, Andy. Um, and I used an uploaded video of Andy speaking because I happen to have it on my computer. And it was high def, so Andy looks great. And then I just gave it one of my intros for mine. Now, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was going to do the opposite. It trained on my voice and put it on Andy. I thought it was going to do the opposite, honestly. I just did it so fast. This 1 minute and 15-second video, you can see here, costs $2.10 per minute and a minimum billable duration of 15 seconds. So it is not cheap as things go, but it is still a minute of video. And it took, I would say, at least 10 minutes for this to process. Long enough that I thought, ooh, I don't know if this is actually working or not. But with all that said, I know you guys want to see this. So here's Andy sounding like me. Hey, what's going on, everybody? On today's show, what if your weather app knew the storm before it happened, before it formed? So we know AI is shaping how we predict the skies. We got from hyperlocal forecast to early warning signs for extreme events. Machine learning AI models are really transforming weather prediction from an art into really even more of a high precision science. So it brings up some questions that we want to talk about today on the show. Are we entering a new era where like the bigger tech giants, and we'll talk about which ones, are the new gatekeepers of global weather and forecast? Okay, so if you're not if you're just listening to this on a podcast that's not doing anything for you, you would have to go back and listen to the show. Go to about 15 minutes into the show and you'll see exactly what it is if you want to see this. But essentially, it's a video of I gave it a video of Andy talking about something completely different in the video. And then I gave it an MP3 of my intro voice where I had done an intro to a different show. And then it processed together. I don't know if you guys, what your opinion on is of it. Again, uncanny valley there. I'm sure nobody's really asking for Andy to sound like me. But what I like did you guys notice like the brow furl, and the moving of the head and actually bringing like in the avatar, Andy's hand comes up at a specific point. So it is not just doing lips anymore, where you're seeing the Andy just talks like this and his mouth moves sort of to the words that I'm saying, but there's really no difference in his expression. You know what I mean? Like that's what we were getting. But that's not what this is. This is much better than that. I think there's still a little bit to go to get past Uncanny Valley, but the impressions, the movements, the changes in his expression as he's trying to match my voice and what I was actually saying and the intent of the words, it's pretty impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah, impressive, a little scary, but that's AI for you for sure. Andy, was it a shock to see you speaking with Brian's voice?
No, no, I think it was pretty good. I saw some weirdness around the articulation of the mouth. Like
Yeah.
it's as if my lips never touched my teeth. That
Yeah.
kind of thing, right?
Right.
But overall, it was really an impressive rendering of my face and my mannerisms,
Yep.
but with Brian's voice. So it was excellent.
Yeah.
So, Carl brought this to us, and I'll let Carl dive into a little more. But apparently, HeyGen has come out with their version of this as
Yeah.
well. So, and they're the number one in the space right now. They're the one that most people know of when talking about these kinds of things, and they're definitely the enterprise focused one. So it'll be interesting to get our hands on trying that out.
And costs, right? Because you can go directly into fall. Look, you can go into fall. It doesn't cost me anything to log into fall. I am literally paying for use of the model. So for some people, like you saw here, $2 per minute. So I actually don't think that's that expensive. I just meant in terms of like, cost. It's not 10 cents, right? You're not running a model. There's obviously a lot going into this. And it certainly was not a 30-second response. But I can definitely see some use cases where you might want to do something like this where it's some overdubbing.
I I was just thinking this would be a great way to do net new content. Like if you don't have time, you just sit in front of the camera for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Can you do it without doing any talking? Is the lip sync are you required to actually move your mouth for that? Because if you're not, you just sit in front of a camera for 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes of footage and you just use that footage as a basis for uh whatever your script is, and then you can just crank those out as much as you want. Just put on different sets of clothes
So the way
and you're good.
you pretty much could, and the way we would test that is when you download, we know this on the backside of this video, we can download the video that's all four of us on the screen right now, or we can also download our individual
Visuals.
and of it. And that's what I used, by the way, because it's just super high crisp, but it was only Andy. The hilarious part about watching those, if anybody's done back editing, is of course Andy's not talking right now, but the video is there's still a video recording of Andy sitting there. So if you just watch the videos until I was trying to get to this clip of Andy, it's just Andy doing what we're doing right now, which is, and then eventually you get a
Right. 50 minutes of that, 10 minutes of the talking. Yeah, for sure.
you can't get any other audio. You have no idea what anybody else is saying. Just it's Andy staring at the screen or anybody. And then it's just a little bit of a yeah.
Okay.
Solid point.
So quite a question for live chat. Would you like us to fabricate an entire episode
Oh God.
of of us. We'll fully script it. We can build out this format. We can do individual streams. We can make it look exactly
Oh.
like like our show, but just have a whole show that's just pre-scripted and
But each of us will be using someone else's voice. Okay, that make
yeah. Make it obvious. I'm not trying to trick people here. I just want to. Does everybody just want to see a full episode of that? Just let us know in the community, where you can access that by the Daily AI Show community.com, and that'll take you to the Slack to sign up. And yeah, I think we could go back and forth on that for quite a bit.
I vote
So
Rogan.
I wanted to throw to Carl real quick and see if what's your most important or interesting story that you wanted to talk about today, Carl.
So I just took your voice and I put it into HeyGen's mirror. So I'm actually gonna play it and see.
All right, let's do it.
Hold on a second. I just gotta, because I took. Oh, that did not work.
Okay, while you're doing that, let's do another quick story. I had mentioned this story about ChatHouse. So a co-working space for chatbots. All right. So I went to TechCrunch because I saw the title. I was like, okay, this is definitely clickbait. What do we got here? Is this actually some larger construction that's going on or whatnot, or a new startup? No, but I think just important is it's an art installation in Brooklyn. An artist who is a graphic designer and visual graphics designer, and he was dealing with his own his own issues with AI, and running into that wall of, oh well, all this graphic design and video is being thrown into the AI. AI been thrown into those spaces and is performing quite well. So it vexed him. So he created a little art installation with a shop front and everything like that, with cardboard people and computers and things like that, to kind of highlight where he thinks we're going with AI and chatbots, and maybe replacing human elements and things like that. But yeah, go to TechCrunch if you want a little more into the article. I just thought it was a little bit of a palate cleanser and something to keep an eye on, of different industries are dealing with the AI impact in different ways. Now, we definitely have some bigger news, and I want to make sure that we cover what we announced earlier. And that is, one of them is Alibaba unveils Qwen 3, which is a family of models, all from a tiny versions of models, all the way up to like a 200 something billion parameter model. And they said they trade in the whole model on 36 trillion tokens and all of those kinds of things. Like with any good foundational model entry, they posted a bunch of stats and benchmarks that they got from a whole slew of interestingly named benchmark tests, which I think the average person, even the average AI user, has no idea what they mean or what their value is. But the important takeaway is their numbers are close or better than all the other foundational models. So that's what you can learn from benchmark charts. And one of the things that they wanted to highlight is, of course, their math and their coding and all of those kinds of things. So, but they tout it as a hybrid model, and this is sort of along the lines of like how Claude Anthropic talks about Claude 3.7 Sonnet. It's sort of hybrid in the sense that it does do reasoning, but it'll also determine and give you quick answers as well. So this might be a trend to go down that line, so that while there might be a little more delay, you can still get both kinds of answers from them. And so we will need some time to determine. And of course, it's not real until we get our hands on it. But one of the things that the Chinese AI model makers are doing is releasing it to in an open format. So you can go download it, run it yourself. The only problem is, I believe you still need a really beefy GPU to run it, but um, probably not the smaller versions of the models. So I'd like to see some real world applications, and right now that's kind of the only way I see these models really being able to be tested, is to test your output, your use case, your personal use cases, and see which model fits the best for you. I think that's
Speaking of major models, Meta AI is used by 1 billion people around the world, but it's only heretofore been inside Facebook and WhatsApp and elsewhere. So if you're a rabid fan of Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram, you might have shifted out of the modality that you use those apps for and used Meta AI. But I'm skeptical. And I think Zuckerberg was skeptical too. Even though 1 billion people have Meta AI, I don't know what the level of engagement is with Meta AI. So they've launched a standalone Meta AI app. And the real important news here is that Meta AI app is going to replace Meta View as the companion app for Ray-Ban glasses. So now you can download just a straight Meta AI app like ChatGPT, and you can use Meta AI. And I think that was I mean, that's removing a major obstacle to adoption of and appreciation of the very significant AI capabilities in the Meta organization. Jan LeCun, for example, is a major thought leader in AI. And so now the next piece of that is you will have the option with the Meta AI app to let it learn about you from your Meta applications. So, yes, give it permission or not, but you'll be able to give it permission to learn about you from your Facebook posts, from your friends' networks, from all the information that's available in the Meta universe. Which is the replacement for the metaverse. They kind of abandoned that, but now it's the meta universe. And so Meta AI, the standalone app, is now available.
nice. Carl, you still working on getting that agent thing?
Oh no, StreamYard won't let me because I have like a dual like audio thing, so I can't do that.
Okay,
Yeah. Well, no.
no worries. We have tons of more stories to go through for sure. Brian, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll talk about one really quick. I'll bring it up on screen. We've just been getting a slew of writing from either the team at Anthropic or their CEO, Dario Amodi. So this is one that came out, I don't think that long ago. And you can see the title here is The Urgency of Interpretability. And this is not a new concept in terms of what we've heard from them and others, not just Anthropic, talking about how it's really important to get inside the black box. He describes it as having a true MRI, a machine, if you will, that can really get into the language models. And in this article that he writes, he does a great job of, breaking down where we've made gains in that area. In fact, he talks about a brief history of mechanistic interpret. See, there's no chance. Interpretability. It's only when I try to do this stuff live. If I was just reading this stuff, it'd be no problem, but it's always on the show. But talking about how Chris Olah, who is, I think, one of the co-founders of Anthropic, had it sort of started in this area many years ago, in 2016 or something like that. It's almost a decade ago, both at Google and DeepMind and OpenAI, and now eventually Anthropic. It's a great article. I read it through. I did not use like a summarizer or anything on this because I think anytime I see something from, the Ethan Maliks of the world or Dario or some others, it's important to read it exactly as they wrote it, assuming they wrote it and didn't use Anthropic. He didn't use Anthropic to write a blog for him, which would be very meta of him. But I did want to pull out one thing that I thought was really interesting. I just thought it was interesting the way he said it. So Dan, he goes through the whole article. I highly recommend it. Then he talks about an MRI for AI. And then down here, I had to make sure I could get to it. So he basically is going on to say, like, look, we could use other people working on this, but this is a fun paragraph because he says, but the chances of succeeding at this are greater if it is an effort that spans the whole scientific community. Other companies such as Google, DeepMind, and OpenAI have some interpretability efforts, but I strongly encourage them to allocate more resources. And this is the one I like. If it helps, Anthropic will be trying to apply interpretability commercially to create a unique advantage, especially in industries where the ability to provide an explanation for decisions is at a premium. If you're a competitor and you don't want this to happen, you too should invest in more into interpretability. So I just love that there's like kind of a gauntlet thrown down by like, hey, if it helps you get to this because we think it's important, just know that we're trying to make it like a competitive advantage at Anthropic, and you should know that if you're a competitor of ours. So I love the way he wrote that. It is an overall positive, uh, positive, blog writing article, whatever you want to call it. Um, it sees a future where we think we can get there. His fear, though, is that AI is moving so fast that they're 5 to 10 years away at having this true MRI as he sees it, but he basically doesn't think we have 5 to 10 years. I mean, most people would probably agree with that. And his point is pretty valid that if you're at some point, at some time in the future, worried about a sentient AI, this ASI type situation, and if we don't have this, we really have no way to combat against it or look into the model or understand where it's coming from. It could be used for bad actors. It could be a lot of different things he points out. I think they're all valid. And he also points out, and I think he's got a great point that would make for a whole other show on this, which is that isn't this actually much more important than the release of a new model? It doesn't get the splash in the news.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're just talking about what's important to the future of humanity and AI, that there's a case to be made that he is correct, that this is actually what's important. Not that we necessarily release the next model faster, but that we get closer to building the MRI. So just really, really interesting.
Yeah. No, I like a lot of the stuff he's talking about there, and I definitely have a weave into a series of short topics uh, for AI in science. Every Wednesday, everybody, I'm gonna have to do it. You know what? I should create a recording of that. I don't know. I like doing it. Okay, so so number one. Um, there is a startup called Crave from Japan. They recently had another funding round. They what they do is they have created early cancer detection by using microRNA and their AI model to process that pattern recognition, all of that to do early detection of cancer. And it's a very non-evasive uh, type of test. Basically, it's a take-home test that people can do. So that sounds good to me. Easy, and if they can keep it inexpensive, then let's everybody do this. If you're over 35 years of age, do it every year. Okay. Um, weaving off of that, we have, uh, in the sense of lowering the bar, a big story, I think, coming out of MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where they have come up with a framework, method, their research, a new approach to um, automatically guide an LLM to generate text that adheres to the rules of a relevant language, such as Python or using molecular biology or robotic instructions and things like that. So they use a new approach that uses far less compute, can outperform LLMs that are twice their complexity or twice their size, outperform all of that and reduce and eliminate variation off of your instructions. So for things that it's very important to have strict adherence to and accuracy, this is what this new method or this new approach will help fix. And so right now, the vast majority of foundational AIs and whatnot, they try and fix this hallucination, for lack of a better term, by scaling, right? The big foundation AIs right now, they're built off of scaling stuff. So let's get big, more compute. Let's throw more resources at it. And that's how they solve these problems. This is the other way. This is the less compute, less energy, less resources. Apply it to smaller, specific models so that you can get the same amount of or better performance and be far more accurate. So this I think is a huge thing. It's coming out of a university, so we'll most likely see most of this applied to open source type models. That's where all their testing has been, in smaller open source models. And anything that open source is generally good for the masses. And finally, um, we've talked about 3D printing, and 3D printing is definitely a path towards, the nanofabricators, aka replicators from Star Trek. But the University of Tokyo wanted to take a crack at CNC machines. Now, CNC machines is the main way manufacturers cut all the materials and put together all of those pieces and whatnot. They just have these huge machines. People program exactly what they need. You still have to use a CAD program to create a 3D model so you can break it up into pieces that the CNC machine can then process and cut up your material. But the University of Tokyo have come up with a method where a user can simply draw on their particular piece of material that they want CNC'd and just feed that into the machine, and it'll do all the cuts for you. There's a little graphical notation bit that you have to learn and whatnot, but in the vein, and they're calling it draw to cut, but in the vein of lowering the bar and being able to implement much cheaper, quicker, and more user-friendly CNC process, you can use their draw to cut application so that, hey, doesn't matter the material, combine that with other 3D printing techniques, and you could have an entire manufacturing factory in your garage. So those are some quick ones that I wanted to weave off of, but I want to hear what's the next great story, Carl?
I do. The one that I wanted to present today was it was from UC San Diego. AI helps unravel a cause of Alzheimer's disease and identify a therapeutic candidate. So I think in this study, I've got to check the stats, but apparently it's 1 in 9 as people 1 in 9 people age 65 and older have Alzheimer's disease. So the most common cause of dementia. So they believe that they have found the gene recognized as a biomarker for that disease. And usually when you find the gene, that's an opportunity to find treatments or ways to slow it even down. And treatment options for Alzheimer's is pretty limited, and response is not outstanding. So and the article goes into potential blood biomarker for early detection. And so it's really awesome because I think at the beginning of the year, I know one of my predictions was that AI would solve or cure a disease. But to me, this is one of the next best things when they can actually find the causes of said diseases. And then that gives the pathway to treatment, prevention, cures, and so on. So I thought this was a pretty neat story. And just something that, we kind of get lost in what are the new models, what are the new things that are coming out. But to me, this is where, if we're looking at helping humanity in a whole, this would be a pretty big piece of that.
Yeah, for sure. That's like be about it in science. It's like this is what's actually happening right now as opposed to hypothetical scenarios. That and like you said, you were mentioning the cancer test, which would obviously, going back towards the preventative side of it, if we can detect things much, much, much earlier before even our current knowledge of early warning signs. If AI can help us detect years or months earlier than where we are today. I mean, just imagine how many
Yeah.
lives that will protect, in the long run. I know Beth, if she was here, she could obviously talk about if she wanted to, her experience. I know she's had some experience with that in her life and family members, but I just happened to see Jay Leno, the former host of the Tonight Show, talking about, I guess his wife has the later signs of dementia and things like that. And, he was just saying, for better or worse, richer or poor, he's like, look, these are the vows and this is what it is. And this is life. And I wouldn't choose to be anywhere else. That doesn't mean it's not tough, And so I think a lot of people would obviously be directly impacted
Yeah.
by it.
Yeah.
Carl, I want to bring you into this.
I
Go
do
ahead.
have enough for it. Okay. So I don't know if we talked about this. I thought this was pretty important. I think, Brian, this is kind of right up your alley. So the your president signs the executive order for AI education for K to 12, the advancing artificial intelligence education for American youth. So the executive order establishes AI literacy, the ability to understand, and so I'm using a Forbes article here, to understand, use, and critically evaluate AI systems and their outputs as a national educational priority across all grade levels. Rather than limiting AI studies to specialized elective courses, the order supports transformative approaches of integrating AI concepts to the core curriculum from elementary through high school, ensuring all students develop fundamental AI competencies regardless of the career path. Also establishes a high-level White House task force on AI education, chaired by a whole bunch of people from different departments. And then essentially what they're looking to do, develop sustainable public-private partnerships for K to 12 AI education. So, from my understanding, they were looking at educational institutes, um, other private educational uh, companies or organizations, and then partner with, like, I guess, the tech companies, and then enhance AI-related teaching methodologies while optimizing AI tools usage in classroom settings, identify and relocate existing federal fund streams that could support this, and then monitor implementation progress and establish.
There's my question. All right, awesome. So they're gonna get Congress to open up the purse and generate more money to pay for it, right? Not just steal it from other programs.
Probably steal it from
Right.
other programs.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, the mention of, oh, yeah, and then work with private organizations to implement this. Okay. All right. Sorry. Being a little sassy there, but it's like, yeah, everybody just got to read between the lines. It's take it from something else that also needs it. All right. But I do agree with the basic premise.
Yeah.
Yes, AI literacy is important
Absolutely.
and it should be taught for sure.
Yeah, 100%. There are tons of ways that AI literacy could be taught to kindergartners in a very positive, supportive, not like freewheeling way. I mean, I know people want to be like, that's nuts. Why would you give that? But I think there's a lot of ways that it could be taught correctly and set children up for the long run of what we have coming. I know at the top of the show, Jimmy, you mentioned Sam Altman, and actually, I don't really have all the news on this. Here's what I know, which is to say, I don't. All I know is one X post from Sam saying we're starting to roll back the latest update to GPT 4.0 last night. It's now 100% rolled back for free users. We'll update it again when we're finished. We're working on additional fixes to model personality, and I will share more in the coming days. Here's the thing. I have no idea what happened. So can you guys tell me
So,
what?
yeah. I'll give you a quick breakdown. So apparently, they rolled out a update fairly recently to like last couple of days to ChatGPT 4.0, right? The main model.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And apparently, it went very sycophantic, meaning
Define that for me.
so yeah, like a sycophant, right? Um, so it was all about over the top agreement, whatever you said, dangerously and disingenuously so, just crazy. Like if you were to see a parody of like a an evil vizier. So, oh yes, king, whatever you say, king. Yes, that's the greatest thing, and but then, secretly being the evil vizier, and they're going to, take the kingdom from you. This is the kind of level of experiences people are having. So it got so bad, and there were so many complaints that OpenAI jumped on it and rolled it back. So the latest thing was Sam said the reason why it happened was because this latest update, they tried to make it feel more intuitive and effective, but it was informed too much by short term feedback and did not fully account for how users' interactions with ChatGPT evolve over time. So, what it sounds like is they made a little switch to the instructions and it took advantage of the last few conversations you might have had, and it went all wacky because of that. So they rolled it back. Um, and this kind of speaks to what you were saying about the Amadei article. It's like, hey, maybe a little more testing. I understand you were trying to do incremental things, but I mean, it's the 30th. I think it happened on the 28th or 27th or something like that. And so it took a couple days, but they were able to roll it back.
I guess this is what Ethan Malik was talking about. And see, that's the thing. Like I saw like clips and things, but like just like anything else, you take your eye off the ball for a second. And you're like,
That
what is going on? But he was talking, I guess, in like there was a pink square and a green square, and he's like, the importance of what small changes to prompting can do. And he was just emphasizing evaluations, which we would all agree that are if Beth was here, we'd be talking about it again. The need to evaluate your prompting and small changes and how they have long lasting effects. So I guess maybe he was referencing that. I'm not really sure if that was all part of it. What I will say, and then I think Andy, you had a point here, but I just want to share this super quick because I found this on Reddit and it made me laugh. And I guess this was somebody saying this is like the opposite, this post. Now I'll put this in our Slack community for anybody that wants to try it instead of trying to have the freeze frame it. But essentially, this is the opposite of 4.0. And there were some really funny responses on Reddit, as you would imagine, where it basically takes all personality out. So if you ever wanted to use 4.0 or just ChatGPT with zero personality in it, that's what this prompt does. So I don't know why I just explained, understood, absolute mode, activated, proceed. And that's what it says, I think, for all of them that I saw. Then it's like, explain the downfall of the Roman Empire, and it gives the answer. And I'm like, wow, that seems interesting. Irrelevant reaction. Focus on extracting structure, causality, and pattern recognition from model analogs. Strip effect, parse for operational insights. What do you think about this? Your inquiry is void without referent. Specify content, isolate variables, request analysis. So then, but people went on and they're like, hey, do you want to be my friend? And we'll try that. Just thinking, let's say, there were some funny things. Just thinking here. Do you want to be my friend? just stripping it all back. But what I saw in other people's too on there was like, it says irrelevant, by the way, but in other ones, it just said no. And it's like, but I think I love you. And it's like irrelevant. It's like, no, I think I really am falling for you. Doesn't matter. Like, it just was like, just anyway, I will put it in the Slack community if anybody wants to play with
I think
it.
that's called Borg mode, isn't it?
Borg
Borg.
Resistance is futile.
But if
Okay.
you want to strip back all the pleasantries and all that stuff, this post, I will say, you can play with it more, but it definitely will give you a whatever comes after that will obviously, as you can see, be very, very like it's a old school dragnet. I'm really dating myself here, but just the facts, ma'am. That's what this is. This is the dragnet version of don't tell me more than I need to know. And if I ask you for more, just tell me it's irrelevant.
Right.
Okay, now OpenAI news. On
Okay.
Monday, they rolled out shopping search against
Oh,
three important categories, right? And this is important. The categories aren't important, but it's important in the competition with Google and with Perplexity, right? Because Perplexity implemented, and Carl was one of the earliest proponents of using Perplexity to do shopping, detailed shopping requests that you would go out and do in effect early research, not yet deep research, but would do the early research to find the best nearby product option for something that he was searching for. I remember that distinctly. And Perplexity then tried to implement, I say try because it never worked effectively for me, that you could search for a product, have Perplexity do the analysis, and then you could just click. If you're a pro user, you could just click and it would buy the product for you. I never successfully bought anything on Perplexity, even though I tried multiple times. It just would fail.
Yeah, but it never worked either.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why. So ChatGPT just launched their shopping thing. My guess is they don't have that problem. I haven't tested it myself, but that feature is focusing first on fashion, beauty, and home electronics. Uh, Product recommendations are personalized and come from the web, not from advertisements. And so OpenAI is jumping into the fray when it comes to shopping specifically. And since they have such an enormous user population out there globally, this could have a material effect on companies like Amazon. Anyway, shopping.
I think this
Yeah.
is another show because if you think about, there's a lot of commentary about what does this mean? Are they going to introduce ads? Blah blah blah, like a lot of that. And I'm looking at, so I just put in I want to buy a blender. And it says at the very bottom, it always says ChatGPT chooses products independently. And then there's a learn more. So the question, and this is very important too, right? So it's like, all these companies would die to pay out of through their nose to get recommended on
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
because this is, you get on here, this is like Google's thing. Their carousel. The question is, I am praying that Sam sticks to his guns on this and doesn't do that because it just opens the door for so many other things, right? I know they want to become whatever, but it's like because that is the slippery slope that leads to your answers being, is it paid for? Is it generative? I don't know, right? So,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a step towards their one platform for all concept, right? It's like, hey, once you're there, you
I'll
don't
share with you quickly
Yeah.
this is
I
kind of what it looks like.
I do share your hopes and fears on this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That just looks like the Google buy page. It's like, oh, here we go.
Kind of does. And then the question is, how did you get on here? So it's like, you buy, I don't know. That is a very expensive blender. By the way, what I just noticed that. I was like, what is this? But yeah, so it's kind of interesting that, like, how did you get this? And then and so on. So I haven't actually bought, like, when you click this, it takes you off to the site itself. But I like Andy, I haven't seen the ability to actually buy inside ChatGPT. I don't know what I need, like what product. I would be here to actually buy it inside the platform? And
It
do I
says that it'll just connect you directly to the merchant to complete your purchase.
so like
That
okay,
simplifies it compared to Perplexity, which was trying to do as an intermediate a transaction with stored cards in your Perplexity account to make the purchase on an outside site.
I think that's a hard thing to
Yeah.
do because unless you give your credit card that you're paying ChatGPT or whatever, that ability option to be like, yeah, I'll use that card to pay it here. But that's I don't know. I think it's just easier. Just click on eBay, click on whatever, and just go buy the.
Well, it becomes it's just a matter of time, right? They have Operator. They can operate websites.
Yeah, you're right.
You
You're
know,
right.
it's like, oh, do you want to use your credit card on file? Yes.
So just a quick follow-up on this, like, because I was curious myself. I did the same thing with a vacuum, and I got, similar results to you, Carl. But then I followed up, like, I like these, but I don't want to spend over $200 and I want it from Amazon only. And it did go out and gave me like, the Levoit cordless vacuum cleaner, right? Is at 149. And it even goes on to say like what the runtime is, its features, its customer reviews, 4.3 out of 5 stars from over 6,300 ratings. And then it gives me the links that I got that information from an Amazon link, but it doesn't give me the buy now. Like once I said it only could be from Amazon, and I guess if ChatGPT isn't or OpenAI isn't picking for me, it still provided the search results with qualified or cited sources, but it just took me away from the previous request, which actually, like just like yours, had the buy options on them. So that's interesting, like how that sets up. But you could still do a lot of research using ChatGPT for sure.
And for right now, the process is that you're telling ChatGPT, I want to buy this. I want to look for X and I want to buy it. Then it comes up. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I mean, that's a good barrier there because, as we're gonna see with GPT-5, where it's just gonna pick what it needs. I don't wanna see any product for sale if I'm not looking specifically to do shopping,
Yeah.
right? I don't want that in my results. So we'll see what kind of levers and dials and switches and stuff that they have for it.
I know we don't have time on this show, but that is a future show is about sales because what you just said is exactly what I've been talking about. I just had a post about on LinkedIn about sales. So let's do a show on that because it is about that just in time, but not just for people, not B2C, B2B
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well. So that it's gonna be really, really interesting. But I think that's a whole show about AI and
yeah.
sales and what
That
that's gonna look like.
one last thing before we shut down.
'Kay.
So the U.S. Senate previously passed, and now the House of Representatives passed the Take It Down Act, which is going to cause all social media and other posting platforms to remove content within 48 hours of a public person's request. And I don't mean necessarily a public figure, just anybody out there in the general public who makes the request to take down that material. And I think there probably has to be also some understanding that it has to be really objectionable material because the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which takes the counterpoint to this, is saying this could be a chilling determination. For example, there could be a proliferation of bad faith takedown requests, hampering your ability to express yourself. Why? Because there's just a bunch of people who gang up on you and want to, issue takedown requests.
Oh my
And
God,
so
for
the
sure.
social media companies and so on are just going to have to take it down. Why? Because somebody said so. That could hamper journalism and satire and lots of other things. At the same time, combating revenge porn is really important.
Yeah.
So tough thing. I don't know what protections are in that Take It Down Act, but it doesn't seem like it does anything other than require the firms to take it down within 48 hours.
And to clarify, we're talking about AI generated materials or deep fakes or any
Is that right?
I don't know how you could determine that it was AI.
Well,
So-
what I'm saying is we called it, we talked about the name of it, but not what it was talking about. And we're talking about imagery and those kinds of things, deep fakes.
Well, deep fakes are certainly going to be involved in generating objectionable revenge kind of postings, but it won't be taken down on the basis of whether or not it had AI involved. It'll be
Right.
taken down because somebody complained about it, and that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be a little too broad and may need to be more specific. But yes, thank you for bringing up that is a huge story. Definitely need to keep an eye on what's happening with that and maybe some deeper analysis. But I think that's a great one to end on. We're already over the hour mark, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you everybody for joining us in chat and everyone watching the live stream. And please, if you come across this later on and want to be part of the conversation, please join us in our Slack community at dailyAIshowcommunity.com. Keep an eye out for our newsletter, which you can sign up for at thedailyAIshow.com and sign up for that newsletter. Does some great, more in-depth breakdown of the relevant stories that we talked about through the week and gives you a quick way to access any of the shows that we had for that week. We've got a bunch of shows lined up. Tomorrow we've got Prompting AI: Why Good Matters Sometimes Backfires. And also on Friday is our bi-weekly recap, which I will probably be bringing the half dozen stories that we didn't have time for today to talk about on Friday. There's so much to talk about every
I
week.
just put all mine in the Slack community, by the way.
So there you go.
Yeah, I did
Perfect.
it
Yeah,
last week
I
too,
will.
so
I will
thank
dump all of my links on there after the show as well.
Yeah. all
Okay.
the stuff I didn't get that you guys were
So
talking
thank you everybody. Like, subscribe, smash that like button. All of that jazz or whatnot. Thanks for joining everybody. It's always a great time, and we'll see you tomorrow. Aloha.